on. This is what I get for sitting around singing a song instead of, ooh, bright lights. Bright lights, no city. Bright lights in our little tiny city. Ooh. Hey, you guys, it has been quite the week, hasn't it? It really has been. I want to talk a little bit today about the power of words. Why would I talk about that? Well, yesterday I criticized Roadhog for some of his word usages, while at the same time I explained how he may have come to them. I mean, it's really true that people that we hang around with, hey, Tamara, and that Amber chick, it really is true that those people we hang around with have a huge influence on the words that come out of our mouth. And I know he's hanging around with other truckers, so those things happen, those things are said, but it doesn't mean that we always have to say what they're saying. I'm disturbed anytime anyone uses that C word, whether it's Todd Paulson, or whether it's Roadhog, or whether whoever it is. Why? Well, I'm a big fan of the cursey words, but here's the thing. I was thinking about this. Hey, T King. Hey, Carolyn. Here's the thing about cursey words. I think cursey words that are general cursey words like OF or that's a crock of S, damn, those things are really pretty general. Where I start having problems with cursey words is when people have cursey words that are not general, they're specific, and they're aimed towards people. I absolutely agree that words do have larger impact than others. That word is disgusting. For anyone to use it as an insult to someone shows their true feelings towards that person. You were getting to one of my points, Heather. I was going to say it's an attack. It is an attack, even if it is on one person. Even if you meant it to be a specific attack, you're showing that you actually have that level of disrespect towards women. I started thinking about this. What words do we have towards men that mean the same thing as the C word means towards women? I don't think we have any good words for men. I mean, cuckold, milquetoast, flaccid, he's flaccid, teeny tiny, Mr. Micropene, Limp Larry. The only ones that got scare up all have to do with genitalia, and genitalia that doesn't work right. I wonder if we need to come up with a word to call men that's equally as offensive as the C word is towards women. I think then maybe they would at least understand the sting when we hear that word, even if it is a word that is, hey, Ginger, even if it is a word that is posited towards somebody else and not us in general. Now, there are some things that Roadhog does well. He, I think, serves the role of those people that want to hear the over-the-top, beaten up on you-know-who every single day. He does that well, and that is his niche, and I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, my only problem with him is with the C word. Most men hate being called the B word, maybe the word dick. Angela, I've started saying limp dick. I mean, that's the closest thing I can come up with. Flaccid, which kind of means the same thing, because I haven't really been able to figure out what that insult word is towards men. Not that I would use it towards a man, but there's a great deal of difference between cursey words that are just cursey words that you just say, and then the ones that you say that are aimed towards people, that reveals how you really actually think about that entire species of people. You think that everybody who is a possessor of the big V is some kind of evil person who's lesser than you. When you use those kind of words, you normalize You normalize the mistreatment of women. You normalize the abuse. And that's something we never really want to do. Maybe that's why women don't have a name for men that is equally as bad as the C word is towards a woman, because we're not generally, well, I don't like the C word, is you're tying your disgust to female genital. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. That is why I am kind of not loving that. Um, exactly, Angela. We all have that. We all sometimes act like that. I laugh every time I see EKC people sucks, their little thing. We all act like that. Why not admit it? There's a lot of truth to that. Everybody has their moments of assholery. Everybody. I don't care who you are, you're going to have those moments. I've been having one of those moments recently, which I have to talk about again. So I'm going to have to think about this a lot, but I'm not going to back down from my stance. Mr. Roadhog, I think you think there's nothing wrong with you. You're a perfectly fine person. I wish you would not use that word, because it does denote a basic dislike and disrespect of women. It normalizes abuse. It does. It just makes it easier for men to abuse women when you bandy about that kind of language. Hey, Christoph fan. So that's my little rant on words today. And we're all a-holes sometimes. I don't know how many of you look at Reddit and you read the Am I the A-hole section. I just love that section of the thing. I guess it appeals to my Budinsky nature. So I love to read it. I love to say, yes, you are the a-hole, or no a-holes around here. That's pretty normal. Most of the time, it's not being so bad. But every now and then you run into one where you're like, oh my word, I can't believe that you're walking around and nobody's hitting you over the head with a frying pan. Bad. Sometimes there's those. So, we're still dealing with our situation here, where we're having issues with the lady down the street whose husband has left her a year ago, that we all knew them quite well. And now it's like every time you turn around, she wants a favor. And like I said last Friday, that favor was going to the grocery store for her. And she had 4 pages of things she needed. And I only managed to get maybe 3, because some of those things we're just not going to have in one store. And I was not going to run around. I was not going to run around and get all those things. We just got back from the States not too long ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And since then, it's been every day, every day, every day. Well, recently, this woman backed off. Yes, it can. That really can, Angela. That's why I have no problem with the F word, because you can be used in that in all sorts of ways that don't put anybody down. An adjective, a noun, a verb, adverb. You are right. That's why that one is not off the charts for me. Plus, it's such an old English word with old English roots, that I have to look at it and just laugh. Even though I know that's where the C word came from too. It came from Old English. I'm still not going to approve it ever, because it does promote violence against women. It's one of those words that men will use when they want to shut you up, or they want to minimize or abuse you. Using that word towards KJ is not right. It just is not. Using it towards any woman is not right. I don't care what that woman is doing to you. You do not say that word towards a woman unless you want to be known as an abusive man. So back to my situation with our friend here. The lady, because really what I'm talking about here with the language, I'm talking about boundaries. You got to have boundaries in life. And we are struggling to have boundaries here with our neighbor whose husband left her last year, who is constantly asking over the top requests, always helping her. I got to give my husband credit. He's starting to see what I see and realize that she really is trying to she has a huge group of church friends she's known forever. She leads worship. So, and I know we were the closest to her. Well, I'll take that back. I'll take that back. J.A. lives next door to her, but J.A. and her husband hated each other, and there was all kinds of insults hurled. I don't know. I don't know how her relationship is with J.A., but we didn't have any. Thankfully, we had nothing to do with her this last weekend, except for she had to have a ride to church. Boundaries, yes, very hard to set when people play the sympathy card. And I'm about to talk about that too. She didn't contact us the weekend except to have a ride to church. Monday morning, bright and early, tons of messages. The lawnmower was busted. She wanted my husband to come over and fix her lawnmower. Well, if you know anything about my husband, he's like the last guy you would ever ask to come fix something, because it's just not his strength. He's a geek. You could ask him to expound upon various things in various languages, and he could do it. He could tell you the history of this or that or whatever. He could talk about how difficult it is to teach English to the kids here, which he does that part-time. He's done that since the day he got here. There's a lot of things he could talk about and be very, very intellectual about. He cannot fix anything to save his soul. He just cannot. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Angel. It just is the one I grabbed. It's kind of a weird color. So you just don't get him to do these things. I don't get him to do these things. During much of our marriage, I was the one. Hey, Claire Bear, I was the one doing these things. I was the one with the wrench in my hand, fixing the toilet, whatever. I was always that person. And she is depending just on us at this point. So for her to demand he came over, and she ended her demand with, you know, my husband left me. Bish, please. Oh my goodness. It was like, so go in there and throw that little bon mot out and push the guilt button, trying to guilt us into helping you. Well, basically, my husband sent her a message back and said, wow, you know, I don't know anything about mechanics. I'm terrible at fixing stuff, so I can't really help you. And there is a lawnmower shop a block from our house. And he told her where it was and said she needed to go there. And so we didn't hear anything from her for a day or two. Yesterday, it started again. Same old, same old, same old requests, same, let's push the button and say, hey, my husband left me. My husband told her he couldn't help her. He's drawn his line finally. It took him a long time. He'd give her rides to church, things like that, but all the stuff that she's asking him to do, that is, and using the excuse that her husband left her, very manipulative. So I'm tempted to call her dirty names, except I know better. I know that stuff comes back, so I don't use the C word at all. I always wondered why he left her. Now I'm beginning to understand how that may have happened, whereas before. But yesterday, I was really annoyed with one thing she did that I'm going to have a conversation with her. She shared my messenger name with some people from the church. They sent me a thing talking about they're going to have this big party, inviting me. Well, you know me, I've got 50,000 things wrong with me, so I'm asking 50,000 questions. I'm asking, okay, what about this? What about that? What about this? And they said, well, we're going to serve a meal. I said, well, what are you serving? This. I said, what are you making this out of? Because I have life-threatening allergies. And one of the things that I've run into here talking about disrespect and boundaries is I've run into people. I had a friend who had a birthday, who had a cake, and she handed me a slice, and I said, is there peanuts in it? And she, oh, no, there's not peanuts in it. Well, I took one bite, and there was peanuts in it, and I spit it out and did my routine, ended up having to use my EpiPen and go away. And she said, well, I didn't know your allergy was that bad. Why would, if I ask you about it, why would you lie about it? Hey, yeah, always grateful. Hey, so that's basically where I am with this. Her husband did leave for a reason. I'm sorry she was left, but there's no excuse to demand help from others. You ask and be respectful about it. T King, that's kind of where we are. It's been constant, 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 constant. My husband is finally saying no. I'm proud of him for drawing that boundary, particularly when it's things that he is not good at all. And I guess everybody at the church is going to have to step up and help her. I don't know. It's just been too much for us, and we just can't. Angel, I do. I say no. And I maybe say no to this party because I found out that there's a larger number of people invited than what the original person told me. COVID is at all-time highs here in Costa Rica. I don't do anything that exposes me to anybody. There's been way too many cases of COVID that originated at this church. So yeah, I do have my boundaries and I keep them pretty tight for a reason. COVID has made my boundaries tighter than ever, and that's just how it is. And at the same time, when people trespass on your boundaries, you let them know. That's the whole reason I'm saying the thing with Roadhog. I never said much about this before, but I've always been bothered by his use of that word, and I've almost never watched his streams because of it. If you're I was abused. If you're screaming out obscenities, and I mean screaming, using a loud, yelling voice, I don't care who you are. I'm out because I get triggered. And I think that's pretty normal when you're recovering from bad religions, you're recovering from bad relationships. It's very normal to be triggered. I try not to trigger anybody, and that can be taken a different way too. Sometimes, hey, Sunday, sometimes when you trigger people, Carolyn, people have said that. And I actually had sat down and had a conversation with my husband about that and said, I'm almost beginning to wonder because she started messaging you only. If that is her ultimate plan, she may not even realize it in the back of her mind. She's thinking you're going to be number two. And I said, well, be it if you are number two, because I'm going to take you for every penny you have. Just jokingly. But he said, ooh, no, she's not attractive, which men are I mean, it can be funny like that. So we've had that conversation. He is aware of that. He is still saying no. And I totally forgot what I was talking about with boundaries. Oh, back to Roadhog and screeching and carrying on and making all those loud noises. I was in a situation recently where somebody was being triggered and reacting all over the place. And they triggered me. I just shut down. I just completely shut down. I could not get out of the situation. I could not get away from the person. But they were triggering me so hard to my childhood that I just shut my mouth and sat down and didn't say anything. And then later they accused me of not caring. I haven't had the conversation with them about triggers, but I'm about to. I'm going to have a conversation with them. I'm going to have to talk to this lady. I'm going to have to talk to the people she gave my contact information, who I don't know from Adam. They're friends of my husband's. And I'm taking the cat's a-hole. Christoph, man, oh my goodness. Actually, no, I'd be kicking him out because I'm keeping the house. I'm keeping the house. I'm keeping the darling guest house. I'm moving in the guest house and renting out the main house to gringos because the price of rent here has gone nuts. If I told you what the real price of our house would be, you'd be shocked. And I'm still shocked. But those are my boundaries, and those are my strict boundaries. That's why when I see YouTubers that start yelling and carrying on, I have a hard time with it. I love real entertainment news sometimes. Sometimes he triggers me horribly when he's yelling in a loud voice. That's one thing I appreciate about BX Beast Boy. He rarely has that loud, triggering voice. Rarely, rarely, rarely. And it's almost always just a man that triggers me with this. I'm not women for some reason. But the men in my life have learned you don't yell around me because I shut down. It makes me insane when you shut down. It makes me insane when you state your boundaries. The other person says they accept them and then constantly pushes against them and regularly sticks a toe over them. Rose, I have a real hard time with that too. I don't really care for that when people do that. When you tell people, hey, here's my firm boundary, and they do that. Now, what do? You can push back and say, hey, that's my boundary. You're going over it. And they will accuse you of being sensitive. They'll try to gaslight you or pretend that you're kind of crazy for having boundaries in the first place. Or sometimes I've heard, oh, I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. I wasn't serious. The I'm just joking, I'm just kidding excuse is one of the ones that makes me the craziest when I hear it out of people when you're trying to defend your boundaries. When I hear that one, I'm like, oh no, I am out of here because you just tried to blame me for reacting to your disrespect. Rose, I can relate. That is an awful position to be in. It is an awful position to be in. But again, it's a matter of how you handle it. And anything you say is going to be taken wrong in that circumstances. Sometimes it's just easier to just cut off contact, which is what I'm attempting to do right now in the situation because it ain't healthy for nobody. It's not healthy for us. It's just making me more frustrated. Like I said, the constant messages for help started when we were on the trip. Before that, we were helping some. I drove her to the airport. I picked her up at the airport. I don't mind doing that. I've done that for a number of people here. And that's the really sad thing. Living here in Tico land in Costa Rica, you really do have to rely on each other for help. For as much as I have not been happy that we stored someone's car here for almost 2 years and had to pay some money towards the car. In reality, that guy is a good friend now. I mean, he was before. We had some pushy shovey about the car because it went over our boundary. And now we've helped him. He's helped us, which is how it should be. This afternoon, we're going to have to drive him to the mechanic to pick up this old rattle trap that's getting worked on. And he's going to take us tomorrow to get Jim's motorcycle that's getting worked on. That's really the hard thing in life. You have to figure out who is a user for the sake of being a user and who is reaching out to you because they genuinely need help. And that's a really tricky thing to navigate too. I didn't have so much of this when I lived in the States, but here, like I said, there are so few of us, we have to really depend upon each other, and that can get sticky and weird and awful. It also can get strange when you add church into that. My husband's going to this church that I'm not really in love with, mostly because of the whole way they handle COVID and nobody masks, so I won't go. I've already told him, I said the rates have to be almost at zero before I will return to church again. There was another church that everyone from the old church ran off to. I kind of liked, but it still wasn't my flavor. So I may just be done with church as well. I don't know. I'm still trying to redraw my boundaries, but like I said, my very strict boundaries have to do with some words. Some words that can connote disrespect towards women in general, wishes to abuse various women, and I think the C word is problematic because of the history. It's like we don't run around saying the N word anymore because of the blatant disrespect that shows to anyone of color. Because of that, we don't say that word any longer. We don't even say the word Negro or anything like that. So I think it's the same thing. You just don't say some of those words because of the negative connotations. I can handle the heavy curse words, but the C word makes me cringe. Sunday, I have the same problem. So I'm going to go ahead and go because I can feel my voice going. And I'm going to start calling men flaccid if I want to insult them, I guess. I saw that there are a couple other people that are claiming they also had interactions with Todd Paulson. If they tell their tale, I hope they have receipts because that, if you're going to make allegations against somebody and you don't have receipts, you leave yourself open to lawsuits. You shouldn't do that. So, and I tried to join Todd Chrisley's class action lawsuit, but his lawyer has never bothered to return my email of a month ago, so I don't know what is going on there. But I think I'm kind of done. I'm done with lawsuits. I'm done with talking about anything to do with any of this, especially since we know that how they work their marriage is really up to them. It's like how we work our marriage is up to us. We don't do the open marriage thing. It would not work. I'm too jealous. He's too jealous. Um, we have a fair amount of latitude. We always have. But there's no flirting. Nobody's getting online and flirting with anybody else. We just don't do that. That's considered cheating. We've talked about that. That's a line you don't want to cross. It is like a slap across the face, Rose. I cringe every time I hear a man say it. Unless it's sometimes the British will say it, and I will just kind of shrug a little bit and laugh it off because I don't think it means quite the same thing. And they have various things about it. I don't know. So I'm trying to navigate that, and I'm hoping that eventually it becomes like the N word. We just don't say it because it's offensive to so many people. It's offensive to mostly half the population. If you want to call her a ninny-headed muggins, go ahead and do that. If you want to say she's bald, call her that, but don't call her the C word. Okay, you guys, love you. I'm going to go ahead and go off into my day. I got a million trillion things to do like usual. You have a great day.